Hello and welcome to the ImAssuming podcast. This is Ija Mohan, and today I have with me an old friend who says we have not seen each other for a good 8 years or 10 years maybe, Mr. Hakim
Hello.
Albasrawy. No, let me get your last name right. Albasrawy. Why am I not recalling that correctly?
It's a little bit of a doozy, and most people they pronounce it Albaswari.
Okay.
However, it's supposed to go Albasrawy.
Okay. So Hakim Albasrawy.
That's correct.
Thanks for coming here, man.
Thanks for having me.
I think it's a little bit of a interesting. How do I say? We have interacted many times, but usually it's like over emails, over WhatsApp, and that kind of meetup never quite happens, right?
Yeah, man, life gets in the way, right?
Yeah, and I'm glad that I have a legitimate excuse to kind of get you to come over and do this pod. And
That's awesome. Actually, I'm like, I need to get a podcast show of my own.
So I think number one, I think you should. I think you should. And one of the reasons why I'm even doing this is because I couldn't find enough Malaysian voices in the podcast kind of sphere, and I tend to like consume a lot of content from like the US, right? And I'm like, man, I've met interesting people in Malaysia, and I would like to hear this, interesting voices, right? So especially, I think given the diverse projects that you have worked on in the past, I think it'll be interesting if you had a podcast. I think you should. A few people that I reached out to regarding coming on this podcast expressed that they also thinking about starting a podcast. So I'm like, yes, please do. So yeah,
everybody needs to share that opinion.
Not opinion per se. I think it's important for us to kind of put it out there that there are many ways to kind of live this life, and there's many realities to it, right? So and people who kind of how do I say, align with how you see things, they'll kind of enjoy your content. Not everybody will like listening to Ija or Hakim or somebody else, but then there are going to be people who really are going to relate to you and go like, yeah, I want more content.
Right. I think in the early days of the internet, there was this story that floated around about this person who was really into parrots.
Okay.
And because, when you're in a small community and there are not many people who are into parrots, what'll happen is you'll seem like maybe you feel a little bit weird, right? But on the internet, you can find your people.
Yes.
And I suppose with podcasts, you can listen to your people.
No, it is really odd that you would say that, because I think there's two sides to the coin. There are some scary versions of you will find people who like what you like to the scariest extent, in the sense. But I like cars, right? And I actually discovered podcasting is actually because I follow Jay Leno. Right. So, but he's more well known as a talk show host, a late night host, right?
Right.
But this guy is probably the biggest car nut in the US. He's got like a warehouse with hundreds of cars. So I really enjoy and look forward to content from him that is not from his talk show, because then he talks about his cars. And it just so happened he was a guest on the Joe Rogan Experience.
I've listened to that. Yeah.
This was about 6 years ago, I think. Right. So because of Jay Leno, I watched Joe Rogan Experience because I wanted to hear more from Jay. I like cars. I want to hear about that. But the introduction to the Joe Rogan Experience by watching Jay Leno, and then I saw that, and probably their podcast was one of the shorter one that Joe Rogan has done, right? So it's only like just over an hour or so. And I was like, man, this is interesting. It's like real people having conversations.
Right.
And I've been watching Joe Rogan ever since, right?
Right.
So I think, you will find your people in every corner of the world. And in this case, cars led to Jay Leno led to Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan led to, in a way, me starting this podcast, I suppose.
So it's more like the more you talk, the more you understand the other aspects of the person.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the theme for, if I'm being narcissistic a little bit, but if why I started this podcast and I'm calling it I'm Assuming, the selfish side of me says I'm Assuming is a play on Ija Mohan Assuming, right? So kind of like, and the domain was available. But at the same time, especially during the MCO, I realized that a lot of our assumptions on office and work and love and relationships and friends and what we need to hang out, where do we work out, blah, blah, blah. We kind of debunked all those kind of assumptions, what we thought. Because before, COVID and MCO, you say, people tell you, oh, I have to go drinking every Friday. I have to go for my hikes every Saturday. I have to do this. I have to do that. I can't do this. I can't just stay at home. I can't. And then you realize when the MCO hit, we don't have a choice, right? And you realize your life didn't end per se. And you realize that all these things that we thought is, or are the truths of our life is actually just our assumptions. Like we thought we couldn't live without these things and all that. And I think in a big way, when it comes to work as well, a lot of companies I think the biggest assumption out there is the only way you can work is if you have to come to office, right?
Totally.
And some of the biggest companies, even here in Malaysia, like my wife works for KPMG, they have embraced working from home. Of course, the downside is my wife dominates my house in terms of her workspace. But other than that, they've embraced it, right? So suddenly they are now considering, oh, maybe working from home is a legitimate way of working, and not just not just for people who lazy to come to office kind of deal.
But I mean, from kind of a business perspective, they have an excuse not to spend all of that money on infrastructure, and they're having people go through the SOPs. So I almost think that while they get to see this new light, but I feel moving into the future, it's more of like,
it serves their purpose.
This is a cheaper way to live.
No, absolutely. And I think apart from the big companies saving money, if we can say there's a silver lining to this whole MCO experience, like if there's I feel it's the fact that it also opens up a lot of people to kind of disassociate the idea of an office to legitimize somebody's business, right? So I mean, in the sense that if you are a startup, okay, I wouldn't say startups are very well funded. If you are a budding entrepreneur who are starting up, right? Before this, you're like, oh, if I'm going to have a client-facing business, I need to have an office, I need to have a business address, only people take me seriously, blah, blah, blah. Whereas the MCO kind of has normalized the idea of, work from home, remote working. And my hope is, even beyond this, that we just don't go back to, okay, everybody go back to office and go back to where it is. I hope people kind of take this as, okay, I don't need an office per se. Even for me, if I plan to start another company, my idea is how do I figure out a way I don't need an office? My staff don't need to come to work.
Right.
But to be fair, I think there are smart people among us who have actually tried and done some of these things. You know, and even like I remember Ikhwan Nazri. I think this was so many years ago. They were like, he had this hashtag, and I can't remember the hashtag. It was. And I did T-shirts for him. That's why I remember he did this. But it was where his mobile office, my mobile office, I think. My mobile office, something. So it's basically saying that wherever he is his office.
Totally.
Right? And that is so relevant now. Right?
Well, I think we can do a little bit better.
Okay.
So I feel like now we're struggling on the back foot, really. So everybody's working at home because we needed to, and now we're working from home because it works.
Okay.
But I think we can do a little bit better, which is what comes next, probably. It's where people figure out, how do we send care packages back home? How do we support maybe childcare for families that have little kids while they're working at home? I think we need to get better as a group of people, let's say, as a country, as humans, to be a little, because with new solutions come new problems, right?
Yes.
And then
Yes.
these new problems need to be dealt with.
Yes. I hear you. I think it is. It's very aspirational, and I do. And no, I don't see it. I'm not saying that in a very nonchalant way. As I'm not brushing it off. I suppose what my question really is unless we can prove that this is a more effective way to motivate teams and employees, I don't know how companies are gonna jump onto that, because giving is, for example, like, you know, when COVID hit, I think Google or Microsoft, I think it's Google, announced that permanent work from home. They offer
Indefinitely.
work from indefinitely kind of deal, which many offices or many companies can't afford to do that without sufficient data supporting whether people are, you know, they're just as effective wherever they are. Maybe Google had that data and statistics for their team and the way they are run,
Perhaps.
to justify that. And Google also has a very specific, you know, way to track their, I think it's called OKRs, the objectives and key results. So their way of tracking that, and they're very good at it. But I don't know if that kind of apply to a small company who does not track their employees, you know, productivity, so to speak.
I suppose, but like, if they were not tracking the employees' productivity in the office, and they were just using attendance at work as a mechanism, then they're not actually any worse off if people are just checking in at home. That being said, like, you have to grow anyway. You're forced to grow, right?
Yeah.
For example, when I started working remotely, it was before the pandemic. So
Yes.
I was like, hey, this is what I'm going to measure as success. And if I get one important task done every day, then I'm successful that day.
Okay.
So, like, I think we got to ask ourselves first, what are we delivering individually? And then have that conversation with our management teams, or, you know, a broader organization.
Okay, so you bring up a very good point. And actually, it is a real, if you ask me, it's a Pandora's box, right? And why I say that is because this idea of being able to self-reflect, right? Which is what you're saying, right? You're able to assess yourself. You're able to look at, you know, what your output and your contribution to the organization is, and is it useful? And once you know the answer to that, you can justify that to your superior or boss, right?
Totally.
And I think what you're saying makes absolute sense. And I believe if I were to put on an employer's hat, if any staff were to come to me or any team member come to me and says, look, this is my output now, I can match, if not exceed this output by working from home. At the worst, I will listen. I would give it a shot for at least a few months to see, is this person really going to be able to deliver? And if they can, great. I got one less soul to switch the lights on in the office or use electricity, whatever.
Totally.
So that would make sense. However, why I say it's a Pandora's box is because it kind of ties into a bigger issue, and I don't know whether it's fair to even rope in, say, a generational stigmas or assumptions like millennials, right? And I've hired quite a number of people in that age bracket that might consider themselves as a millennial. I don't know how to kind of label it, because if you look at definitions, I'm a millennial.
I think I am too.
Yeah, so I don't know how to kind of bracket it, but I would say I've hired people who identify as millennials, right, so to speak. And what I realized was, more often than not, there still seems to be a prevalent ideology or expectation that I turn out to work, you pay me my salary.
Really?
Right? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because our current way of work, right, it is not, I cannot speak for your organization, but for most companies, are not very rarely results driven. It's always, you know, when you talk about, you get OT if you work on the weekend, right? So immediately you realize that once you talk about OT and all that, it is just a factor of time. So especially when people are starting out in the working world, the one thing I get from them is they expect to get paid if they come to office.
Right.
And even I try to learn from all this little Google OKR blah blah, and I try to do a little bit of mentoring with some of my fresh grads and all that. And I do this with them, and I kind of try to emphasize the importance of, you need to know what you're bringing to the table. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier, whether you're discussing wanting to take work from home or take leave or salary or promotion, whatever.
Totally.
The minute you know what you're bringing to the table, what your value is, you'll be able to negotiate, right? And despite my best efforts, most people can't comprehend that. Their idea of work seems to be, I turn up at the office, what my boss asks me to do, I do. If my boss is an idiot, never say anything, I watch YouTube videos all day, I still get paid.
Right. I think language is a very important way to frame your thinking. And in Malay, for example, a staff is called kaki tangan, right? And I think it was last year, I started thinking about the problem with kaki tangan. People who are your hands and legs. They are extension of your brain. So you can't scale that, yeah? Because one person does all the thinking. One person is told to move this and they do. One person is told to press a widget and they do. And then this very quickly becomes an inefficient system. So I reframe this and just along the lines of this idea of what's your worth. What if you looked at your employees like investment, like a bet? So you're going to have a few bets and you're going to say, hey, I'm going to focus on one thing, making you better. Now, we can discuss what better is. Maybe you want to be a better copywriter, but your focus is something else at the moment. All right, let me find ways to put resources into this bet. Measure how much better my startup bet, as it were, quote unquote, becomes. And the better they become, basically the better, the more they can deliver. So I found that as long as you invest in that sense, you get a more competent team. And with a more competent team, you can have better conversations. And the conversations can sound like, all right, you could do this before and now you can do something more. What do you want to do? I don't want to focus on the conversations, what's the minimum you can do, but I want to focus on the conversation of what is more that you can do today than you could do yesterday.
I can see that working, but I don't see that working for everybody. Or
who wouldn't it work for example? And I'm totally on your side here with a mechanism only works so well as the environment that's in place for that to work.
Yeah. Okay. So again, the way I see it, right, there's definitely issues on both sides, right? I'm talking, just say if we simplify it as employer-employee, just say if there's two sides to the coin.
Okay.
I think it is extremely unfair if we just say, oh, employees are not good enough. I think that's wrong. I think that's flat out just wrong saying that employees are the problem. I think the burden is shared, but the burden of having the correct mindset, for example, that has to come from the employee. The employee can help you build your skill set, can help, but the employer can't help you with your attitude. In the sense, you come in with your attitude. The aptitude, the skill sets can be taught, learned, groomed. But my take, and from what discussions I've had with other business owners and all that, there seems to be a very distasteful consensus that the people coming into the job market now, their view on what their expectation is from work is not the same as what it used to be. Like, I'm not saying it used to be better. I don't think dedicating your life to a company is also the only way to do it. I'm not saying that's the way it should be, but I don't know whether without having to go out and say, oh, millennials and all their little stupid rants, right? Without having to go down that rabbit hole, if you're being a little bit more objective, I do believe that we do have a problem on the employee side in terms of their attitude towards work.
Would you say that the employer-employee relationship is kind of like dating? You both have to want the same thing. If you don't, then you're not gonna get very far in the relationship, right?
Yes, I mean, I'm not removing the employer from this equation.
Right. But the employee, you're saying, okay, all things being equal, there are tons of people out there that one could date, right? Same as far as employment is concerned. There are tons of people that you can hire as long as you have what your employees want, quote unquote. If you have an attractive salary package, if a chance for growth, I don't know, maybe a mission, I don't know, whatever. If those are aligned to what your employees are looking for, then you got something. But sometimes the employees don't want to do the work, you're saying, potentially.
No, it's not that they don't want to do the work. So I need to better articulate it, right? So if an example I would give, if I were to give some real life examples, right? So just say like people that I hired in the past. Of course, I'll not mention any names lah.
Probably for the best.
Right? So people I've hired in the past, you see, when you hire somebody, your assumption is this person is good for the job lah, right? This person is a good fit for the job, and that is why you're hiring this person, right? So I think the kind of dating kind of deal is when you hire someone, you are doing that initial assessment. Oh yeah, okay, they are weak here, strong here, I can train them here, train them there, right? The issue that I see is even after assessing that, okay, they have a good temperament, or they seem like they'll get along with the team, they might be game to learn and all that. But then in the course of the job, they are very clueless, like just don't know what's going on. And you take the effort to kind of like micromanage and show what needs to be done, blah, blah, blah. But that micromanaging is not taken into account as a learning. They think that your job is to micromanage them, right? In the sense that it's not like I'm showing you the way, so next time you can walk the path, right? It's more like, hey, this time you didn't show me the way. So the expectation is that to be handheld continuously. So even when this employee didn't work out and I had to let this person go, and I had this discussion with this person, and the worst thing I like to do in life is fire somebody lah. It's like, for me, the worst experience is letting people go, right? So I always make a point to kind of talk to them and kind of say, what's your plan beyond this, blah, blah. Tell you what, you don't have to come into the office, I'll still pay you for your time, but come back a week later, let's meet up. Tell me what is especially if it's a fresh grad lah. If it's the first job, I take extra care to let them down softly as I can, right? So I asked them, come back to me and talk to me about what are the interviews you have lined up, what are the kind of jobs that you think you want to try, what is it you want to do, and the reason I tell them is maybe I can write you a good recommendation letter, or if I knew somebody in some of the lines that you're interested in, maybe I can make an introduction, right? So that's it, just so that I can make your life a little bit easier while you're getting fired, right?
Okay.
And a couple of times, actually not a couple, more than a couple of times, the feedback after the 1 week when I come talk to them is, what are you going to do after this? And they're like, oh no, nothing. So that is not the red flag. I say, why nothing? I mean, why don't you want to do something? Aren't you interested in something? And the feedback most often than not, which is the most worrying part, is that my father said or my mother said, don't need to stress so much. Why are you doing this? Why don't you just stay at home? Why do you need to go and do this? Why you want to work for this kind of company? So suddenly you realize that they are not doing it for themselves, right? So in the sense that they are still being mollycoddled by the parents, so to speak. That the parents get to say, oh yeah, don't work so hard lah. Why do you have to stress out? It's okay lah, this job didn't work out, just stay at home, take a break.
I've had this feeling that in a sense they were never going to work out anyway, because
possible.
Maybe there's that misalignment of, let's call it values or principle. Now, I think the dating analogy, we come back to it. have to have the same principles lah. And you have to be able to communicate. These are my principles. One of my principles is problem solving is done this way. This is the culture of working our way through difficult situations. Now, if we're not aligned there, and I think this is where the first contract period, I use it at least to determine whether our principles are, our values are the same. If you're not aligned, very quickly I'm like, okay, it's not gonna work. And that's why I've taken to, especially during this MCO period, hey, I'm gonna hire you quickly because I don't know what your values are. I'll
Okay.
tell you what my values are, and then let's see in 1 month, 2 months, we'll know if we are aligned.
Okay. So now I'll give you the other side of the coin, right? So I was being a little bit harsh on the employee, right? But I think at the same time, on the employers, it's actually a lot of effort to invest in an employee, right? In the sense, it is a lot of time, a lot of effort. I've attempted. I wouldn't dare say I've done it. I've attempted. Looking at how people like Google and all do it, they have like structures that you can try and replicate into
Has it worked?
It's more work for you as an employer, and if the employee doesn't understand that fundamentally this helps them become better, if they don't understand that, for them it is just more work. In terms of tracking their growth, it's actually for them it's more work. They see it as, oh, this is another report I have to file, and then you realize it's just bullshit numbers. They're just clicking whatever, and they don't realize that this doesn't help the company. It's actually helping you. This is focused on helping you grow and where the company can help you, right?
Right.
And if it is not understood by them, it is a complete waste of time. And to make them understand, it is a lot of effort on the part of the employer, and it's a lot of how do I say it? It is it's not a vital. I think there's a better word for it. It is not your primary business objective lah. If you want to sell nasi lemak, that's what you want to sell lah. But if you are sitting down doing charts and on employee productiveness and all that, and spending a lot of time on that instead of actually going out and selling nasi lemak, right? It's not your core business, right? Core business activity. So this tends to become very heavy and time consuming. And I tried to do it, but even I would assume that I did it wrongly because I was not successful. So even on the employer side, it's even the employees that want to do it, I think it's a lot of work. I'm sure there are people who are killing this and doing it really well, knowing how to spot talent and knowing how to groom talent, and I just want to talk to these kind of people and figure out what's
me too. You and I both.
But and why I think in a way we kind of segued into this is if the workforce knows what their value are, if they know this is what I can produce, this is what my value is, then the idea of working from home or working remotely or whatever is an easy sell to the company because, hey, this is my output now. I can match the output. I don't even have to I can match the output, and you save money on utilities and overheads in the office. There's not a boss in the world that would say no, right? But if it is just without any data, is I want to work from home, and then your simplified boss's brain is just like, oh, it's just gonna be at home watching YouTube all day.
So how long was the longest business you've run?
Let's see. The restaurant was 3 years at a actual physical Indian restaurant. This merchandising was a long run, 6 years, a good 6-7 years. Probably the merchandising business over that 7 years I've hired about close to 50 or 60 people in rotation, not at the same time or whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can say hired and fired. So that's my sample size for my assumptions. But the scary part is that when you share some of the stories with other people, they kind of agree with it. So that's the worrying part for me. I was hoping people would tell me, Ija, you're an idiot. You just don't know how to manage your stuff. And this is the secret sauce.
There's no such thing.
Yeah. But the problem is everybody kind of like, dude, tell me about it, right? And that is the worrying part because it kind of indicates there's a larger trend and it's not just isolated.
Yeah. So 6 years, 50 employees over the 6 years. Do you at any point find feel comfortable? So like I am at cruising altitude right now, and I'm gonna tweak the company. I'm gonna
No,
optimize.
never.
So it was always like a battle, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a challenge because if you're always on response mode, right, you don't feel like you want to spend the time to put the effort into shoring in practices that will make things a little smoother. One thing that I've seen, so this is from an art studio.
Okay.
I think a very famous artist in New York.
Okay.
Google this 11 bullets.
Okay.
He's been doing this for like 50 years.
Okay.
And in that 50 years, he's found his cruising altitude and has come up with 11 principles that anybody that comes to work in his studio must follow.
Okay.
They look like rules, but they're actually principles. And I feel like when a business gets to that point, that's when things start getting really interesting. Now, spoiler alert, your business could actually start doing that much earlier. You don't have to wait 50 years for it. You just have to allocate the time. Now, everybody makes that discussion, but I'm kind of firefighting here, raising money there.
Yeah.
But the reality is, how you spend your time is a thing that you decide. You prioritize. So either you're spending time on the things that are in front of you or the things that could make everything else easier. So I feel like, and it's taken me 15 years to get to this perspective. Yeah, I would rather move slowly in the first 1 or 2 years and figure out what do I need to polish so that it's not so painful to do year 3, year 4, and then it's very cruising altitude in 3 and 4.
No, I hear you, and a part of that, a part of the argument makes a lot of sense. The other part, for me, it's hard for me to reconcile only because I think I gave it a genuine try, and I wasn't able to hack it. I'll be very honest. I do see it as a personal failing, but I wasn't able to hack it. And looking back, part of the reason why I feel I even felt the need to implement this kind of strategies early on was also because you want to be competitive as an employer, right?
Yep.
And now when people are coming in and joining organizations, some smart people ask smart questions, right? In the sense of, when they compare you to versus I'm working with Grab, your package with Grab is going to look a lot different from working with a small startup, right? So you start kind of trying to meet the demand of, okay, we need to offer more for employees, even though we are at nowhere close to being able to figure that out for ourselves. That means if the priority is always to answer a customer's phone call or go out and meet a client, you're not going to give the priority to your staff and to your team to kind of build up. I've seen examples where people invest a lot in team morale, having talks and all that. But at the end, the result seems to be the same. The same people tend to say that, oh yeah, my turnover rate is very high. And all these stupid assumptions that I was saying, they seem to echo some of it. So again, I don't know. I don't know if I do feel that when you said that you need to have your business in some kind of order and running in that's some kind of certainty in terms of you'll have X number of revenue coming in, blah blah blah. You don't have to worry about firefighting, paying the bills, whatever. To be able to kind of like focus a little bit more on the people in your organization, I think that makes a lot more sense. But that also sounds like procrastination lah. That means I will do it when I get there, kind of, it's like, oh, when I make it, then I will think about people. It sounds a little bit of procrastination, but I do feel, I don't know, man, because I've had people who come on as advisors and consultants and come and try and work with my team, and try and, so I don't know, maybe it was just bad hiring on my side or very bad implementation of all the strategies on my side, but it was tough trying to figure that out while you're still firefighting a business. So for me, if you ask me, I would say it makes a lot of sense when you've kind of done with the firefighting. There's some level of stability, autonomy on your business, I think it makes a lot more sense to kind of build a people capital but that is just based on my experience.
Right.
On a small
And for
company.
your next one,
Yeah.
I think the key here is you have to be able to hold two contradictory states in your mind at the same time, right? On one hand, you're looking for stability, then growth, and then stability and then polishing your team. On the other hand, you're looking for expansion and instability in some sense, right? So two things have to happen at the same time. Now, how do you do that? Maybe a portion of the company is you work to stabilize it, and then you stop that. And a small portion of the company is focused on the unpolished experimentational growth component. I don't know what it is, and I'm still figuring it out also.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if you don't mind me sharing, I've in hindsight, it's very stupid, but I'm glad I did it so that I can say I've done it, right? And not leave it as an excuse. Is that at some point when we raised some capital for the company, I hired a person dedicated as our chief people officer kind of deal. Right. And the role was specifically to kind of look at the team as a whole, as a morale, and see where people are struggling, whether they're happy, unhappy, and how to address that, how to continuously motivate them. So that's why the OKRs all came in, because this person was responsible to ensure you kind of track the team. So you are supposed to be the father figure for the team, right. Kind of get a pulse of what people are up to and all that.
Did it help?
So we sat down and got input, and we started out ways of getting the team more involved. Like, for example, we'll have like Culture Fridays where we will, after work, cut off a bit early, sit down, share stories, talk and all that. And everybody has to share, don't be a hermit, blah, 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 and all that. But these things almost always morphed into, today I have to present. Although it's just sharing and it's always be casual, we're having drinks and all that. Suddenly it still became work for the employees. So, and then suddenly the biggest discussion was just about, oh, boss, what are we eating this Friday? That's it. And I'm like, we're buying food for the team, but then that's not the point of doing this kind of chats. It's more for us to get to know each other better. I wouldn't say it was completely didn't work. A few of them who enjoyed eating and I would say drinking as well tend to stay late. And then there was some bonding happening there, and then you get to know your employees a little bit better.
Right.
But again, it just happened maybe in 20% of the team. So I don't know. I feel that we have tried all these strategies, and maybe it would work better with the bigger team. My team at that point was just, I think, 12, 14 people. So maybe it was not a big enough, diverse team to, for people to have their cliques and friends. And
maybe the learning from that was also one size doesn't fit all. So you're going to have quieter people who need different things, for example. And if anything, the fact that you've tried, that's awesome. Right? Because so many people don't even start trying.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I suppose I feel very strongly about this. I think it is something that we legitimately need to get better at. Managing people. I definitely feel that, people should be happy to come into work. I know it sounds stupid saying that, but you shouldn't dread going into office. If that's your life, that's kind of sucks, right? Dreading going to work. But tackling that is so hard, man, and that's why I feel it's an attitude. If you look at work as, apart from the salary and whatnot, it's like you're going in. I'm going to get better. It's a new skill set. Hopefully, I have friends in the office. Blah blah blah. What's next for me? How am I going to springboard from here? Whatever it is, right? But if it is just, I gotta go to work today.
Maybe a job could be split into two types of work. Some people just want a job. And
that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But you don't have to be miserable.
I'm not saying that they are. I'm just like set the expectations up at front.
You know what? This is something that I probably believed in and echoed since I was a kid, and I think still holds true to today. Right? Like for me, the biggest thing is finding happiness in what you do. Right? The what you do doesn't matter. So in the sense that I've always been fascinated. I lived in Klang with my family for the shortest period of my life. And in Klang, we had an open kitchen at the back. to the back alley. The back alley was pretty big, and the garbage truck would always drive through to pick up the garbage, right?
Mhm.
And every time the garbage truck drove through, I don't know whether it's this bunch of guys, but some of these guys would be whistling and singing, and they're enjoying their life, lah. And every time I hear that, I'm like, man, I hope I'm happy at my job. Like,
Wow.
these guys, because it is not about, oh, these guys are garbage collectors. If you find satisfaction in what you do, or you know, okay, great, this is not a great job, but you know what? This helps me pay for my family, and and I get to take care of my family, and it's okay, lah. I've come to terms with it, whatever it is, right? And you're not, every day is not, oh, I gotta go to work. And if you can whistle and sing at work, man, that's awesome. Right?
Okay. Have you ever had a conversation with anybody about that? What makes you happy at work?
So that's what I think when I come back, when I say when it's attitude, right? If you don't self-reflect, you wouldn't even recognize what that means. So if you ask somebody who doesn't appreciate what it means to be happy, hey, what makes you happy? Then they probably, oh, I like KFC. Then it is totally irrelevant in terms of the concept of being happy at work. Like, it's also asking, like when you say the analogy of dating, right? You ask somebody, are you happy in your relationship? They might say yes. They say, what makes you happy about my boyfriend? Oh, he's there lah. So when they don't have the awareness to understand what happiness is, not everybody is as, the word is sophisticated as you, Hakim, in the sense of the way they think, right?
You have to spend time at it, right? I was not born this
way. But at the same time, I think that question of the self-reflection,
I think it's a really good one, though.
If people self-reflect, so maybe it's not their fault, maybe it's the bloody parents' fault for not forcing the kids to self-reflect on, I don't know. I'm just finding ways to kind of figure this out, because I think it's an interesting problem.
I totally agree with you. And when you decide to do your next thing, I feel the biggest learning is assume everyone is not self-reflective and try to get them to a point that they can self-reflect. Then you can have a meaningful conversation with them.
Or only hire the people that can actually self-reflect.
Yeah.
Or have gotten to the point where they are comfortable to suffer. I don't know.
But you will usually end up hiring a little bit of an older crowd as a result. I think once you hit 30, that a lot of that happens, right? Whether you want to or not. You can go through your whole life and not be self-reflective.
Yeah.
But it's harder at a younger age.
It is. It is, especially if everything is given to you on a silver platter.
I don't want to put blame, but it's just harder.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that point blank, because like some of the people I've hired who are young, they have maybe kind of had to struggle in their life, so they have a deeper appreciation for having a job, number one, and they have appreciation for making sure they feel like they are useful, which actually makes them results focused. I mean, we use more fancy words. They want to feel useful means they make sure they produce for the company, so they're very results oriented. So, but then if you don't care about your job and you don't really need the money, then you don't have to reflect on, oh, what does this job mean to me? You're not forced to reflection. I don't know. It's still a little bit of a gray area, but you are right. Maybe the takeaway from this is have a test to see how self-aware somebody is, right? That'll be really cool. And that would be the first part of the interview.
Yeah,
and if they fail, it's like, hey, it's really nice meeting you. And
and or hire orphans only.
No, I am not
there you go.
against that, but that sound a little bit discriminatory. But no, I'll give you a simple example, right? And maybe we are like delving too much into this, but I'll give you one last example. I was looking for somebody to handle marketing, as well as maybe to look at events, to create like community events for us and all that. So I was interviewing candidates, and I ended up interviewing this one person over coffee in Bangsa, because I didn't want my rest of the team to see me interviewing somebody lah, because I wanted to replace somebody in the office at that point. So I was outside. So I talked to this person, and she was very energetic, very colorful, blah blah. And I would say reasonably good interview, right? So towards the end, I kind of want to know the why you want to do this, blah blah. And I asked, "Oh, why do you want this job?" And then she goes like, "Everybody wants money, right?" And I was just "Ooh, what?" And then I look at her resume, and she does a lot of NGO work. Then I'm like, "Yeah, but you've done so much NGO work. I'm pretty sure you're not about the money." Then she's like, "Oh, I've done NGO work. I don't get paid. Nobody appreciates you. Now all I want is the money." Blah. And then she goes into like just the last part of the interview. She totally like tanks the interview, right? But if you were to ask me the first 90%, she's a good candidate. I spoke well. Probably somebody can groom. But again, because I feel she didn't self-reflect, and she didn't realize that, number one, you're going in for an interview. Don't just say it's all about the money and blah blah blah. But at the same time, it's obvious that she's frustrated for whatever happened in the last job and whatnot.
Yeah.
And she's just like, you know what? I'm going to become a capitalistic pig like you. you know? So in that sense, that smart person, I probably would have believed she had the skill set. But the approach and attitude suddenly is just way off base, right? In the sense that she's coming from this point that, oh, it's all about the money, it's dog eat dog world, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know how that will translate to her interaction with clients, customers, people, or even me. So, I mean, yeah, so, everything can be there, but the attitude part is that how do we, smart people and good-hearted, right? I mean, I have spent most of her career with NGOs doing good things.
And it doesn't mean that she isn't, yeah?
Yeah,
she hasn't lost that.
I'm still saying she's a good-hearted. That has not changed. But I just think that attitude, the way she looks at work, or the way she described how she looks at work, I thought was a little bit odd.
It does sound off-putting. I don't do interviews.
Okay.
I tell everybody that I meet that I'm interested in hiring. I say this is a conversation, and I think that brings the conversation to a little bit more of a relaxed space. And here's one thing about a conversation, and I recently learned this not more than 3 years ago.
Okay. Your recent is very long, huh?
Well,
just kidding.
It depends on how old you are. And I've been learning it. Sometimes when you talk to somebody, you talk so that you can respond. Or you listen so that you can respond. Right? And that's problematic, right?
Yes.
So it's like very combative. It's like, how do I maximize my response to this particular question, or how do I corner them? And I think if you talk, or more importantly, listen to just kind of get a sense of who this person is, you open up a whole new conversational opportunity. Like, say this one. Yes, there's pain, but what's under the pain? I'd like to have a conversation about that, because the first layer, a little off-putting, but what's under that is vulnerability. And this is super interesting, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be vulnerable with you if you're not vulnerable with them first. And that, I think, is how you really understand people.
No, yes, I agree with you. I think the minute your mindset is, what's a good question to ask, or what's a good answer to give? If you're focused on those things and not essentially being yourself, then it's it's just the wrong way to go, lah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it doesn't work. It works in many instances.
Yeah.
And
it's
but it doesn't communicate.
Also, right?
Yeah, it doesn't really communicate like who you are. Whether even if I'm interviewing a candidate, if I'm thinking in my head, what's a good question to ask this person, then you are not really trying to understand what the candidate is, right?
Yeah.
And
maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would agree that a more casual conversation probably does a lot more wonders than an interview. Because interview, they're just in their mind is just, what does Hakim want to hear when he asks this question? Like when what is the answer he's looking for, and they're just trying to feed you the answer and see whether is this the answer you wanted? Is this the answer you wanted?
But what's the purpose of the interview? To get to know the person anyway, right?
Yeah,
if you think about it,
it's a tricky thing, because I've talked to some people who give me some like creative ways to conduct an interview, or creative questions to ask an interview. Right? So simple things like, I tried this on one candidate where, what's your greatest achievement in life? And they're like, work related? No, I mean anything, just about anything. What are you proudest of, right? And this person was not very old, probably in his 30s. And he's like, he thought for a while and he was like, marrying my wife. Okay. So there's no right answer or wrong answer, right? So, okay, it just shows that, okay, like he's loves his wife, very committed to the marriage. So this is where, and he did well in the interview. Smart guy, good credentials. I hired him. He's supposed to turn up to work. On the day he was supposed to turn up to work, he was supposed to turn into office at 9. At 9:20, I get an email from him. After consideration and having spoken to my wife this morning, she says I shouldn't take this job. On the day, this was a month, so interview was a month ago, accepted. And he's supposed to come into work a month later. And on the day you're supposed to come in. So again, I'm not drawing any comparison. I'm just saying it's a funny story that, that yes, this guy really is proud of marrying his wife in that sense.
Yeah.
Again,
achievement unlocked.
Yeah. Dude, I think it is great when you know what is it that you want.
Yep.
Whatever it is, whether it is I want to go rollerblading every day of my life, I want to play computer games, I want to write codes, I want to do whatever, save lives, doesn't matter. As long as you know what you want to do, that's like a huge step. Then figuring out how to get paid doing it, that's another huge step, right? But knowing what you want to do, oh man, I'm ecstatic when I meet people who know what they want to do. It's so rare.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And there's this book by Viktor Frankl.
Okay.
I think it's called.
I can't remember. You might need to be a bit closer to you.
I can't remember what this Viktor Frankl book is called. But it talks about kind of how do you find meaning in what you do. So even if the thing that you're doing is something that you don't like, if you found meaning in it, let's say your meaning is to provide for your kids, that's okay too.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Meaning is a really powerful thing.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. And I think also it ties up with it doesn't matter what you're doing, it is, if you're, the fact that you're providing for whatever it is that you're providing, you're happy about it. And that makes you happy as opposed to the job that makes you happy.
Yep.
Why not?
For sure.
Hey, so I'm trying to kind of reconcile some of the instances where we have met. I think more often than not, we have met during one of those social media meetups, correct?
Yeah, social media club, I remember.
Yeah, SMCKL?
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to SMCKL. I do recall that there was some video, Sarawak tourism. Were you in the video? Were you involved with the video? Or
I think
why
so.
was I talking to you about that?
So if I recall, I was working with an airline back then.
Firefly. Was it Firefly?
I believe so.
Okay.
And they wanted to do something with Borneo, specifically Kuching, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And we did a tweet out. Remember that
song,
tweet?
Right? Was it Ezra that sang the song?
Yes, it was. I can't remember the name of the song. That okay song.
Yeah. Were you in the video? Or why do I?
No. Yeah, they did that independent, and we were so motivated to use that song. We reached out to them and say, "Hey, can we?"
Oh, so they just made the song
independent. Yeah.
Okay, and then your campaign came about, and you reached out to them, and they were like, "Oh yeah, let's do that." Oh wow. Yeah, that was some time ago. Man. Yeah, and I think. Was it Pandemic? Was it Pandemic?
Yep. Pandemic.
Man, so that was many years ago.
10, 11.
Okay, and I think one of the things that we also did was, which you reminded me actually, not that I forgot, but it was not at the back of my mind, was the change.org. No, not change.org. What was it called?
The golden
golden rule,
something or the other?
Golden rule. I think Just Malaysia, Just organization headed by Professor Chandra Muzaffar, if I'm mistaken. They answered the call for a global movement to kind of enforce or agree to uphold the golden rule, which is do unto others what you would want others to be done unto you, or to a certain extent.
Something like that. I remember it was a TED talk that got a TED wish, and
so it was by Karen Armstrong. The TED talk was by Karen Armstrong,
right?
And she won that TED wish, and TED kind of like empowered this whole thing about having this whole movement, and I got sucked into it somehow. How did I? Okay, one of my lecturers from college. I think she saw me sharing TED and blah 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 on Facebook, and she reached out that she's doing this. Would you like to get involved? I got involved, and I suppose at that point was very active on Twitter. So I like tweeted about it, like, hey, who wants to do this? Who wants to come part of it? And actually, quite a number of people.
I was one of those people.
Yeah, it was. I want to find that video though. I don't know if there's. I'll find it. Okay, so you were saying that you have evolved your interpretation of the golden rule.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So I was thinking about it.
Okay, let's start with what your original understanding of the golden rule is. Where you started off before you started.
So I was always under the impression that if I do something bad to somebody, I should be okay with other people doing that bad thing to me. So I should not do bad things to others if I don't wish it upon myself.
Okay.
Now, I kind of assume that if I do that, I'll be a good person.
Okay.
But there's two things that I want to bring up. Okay. The first thing is sometimes what's good for you isn't good for the person in front of you. So, for example, let's just say coffee.
Okay.
You're a friend with this person who doesn't drink coffee. You're a person who drinks coffee. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to buy this person a coffee as a gift because I like it.
Okay.
We have a problem there. So this golden rule doesn't really translate without some modifications. So that modification would be the thing to do unto others is buy them something they like. Because inversely, if you don't like, I don't know, ice cream, you wouldn't want somebody else to buy you an ice cream if they liked ice cream, but you didn't, right?
Right.
So the question here is, the first part, be thoughtful.
Okay.
Because I want people to be thoughtful to me.
Okay.
It's not in the gift, it's the thoughtfulness about the gift.
Okay,
cool.
That's part one.
That's part one.
Okay.
And that's sort of my first foray into going deeper about the golden rule.
Okay.
The second, and I'm going to sum this up as non-complementary behavior.
Okay.
So, if somebody slaps you and you slap them back, they're going to slap you again, and the cycle continues forever. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and everybody's doing the same thing.
Okay.
So there are lots of I think the most memorable one is this verse in the Bible. If a man slaps your left cheek, turn the other cheek so they can slap it. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that.
So that research is the research of non-complementary behavior, which means if somebody does unto you, your response is not the same. Violence is not met with violence. Rather, violence is met with pacifism.
Okay.
And that solves a lot of problems in the world. And I kind of feel like my modification to this golden rule would be, if I were talking about violence, right?
Right.
So somebody has wronged me. Let me take revenge. I don't want people to take revenge on me.
Okay.
So respond in kindness. That's the golden rule that I would apply when we're talking about people taking advantage, being bad towards me. Reply in kindness.
Okay. So, okay, I got a few questions.
Tell me.
So, what got you thinking about the golden rule in the first place? For you to contemplate the new interpretation of it. What got you?
Well, the first one, I dated this girl. I started dating this girl. I'm still dating this girl.
Oh,
And so I was like, wait a second. I'm doing these things that I like for you.
right.
Why you don't like?
Okay. And she's like, this is not what I like.
She's like, no.
Okay.
And that forced me to kind of think a little bit deeper. I was like, oh, the golden rule applied here is be thoughtful if you want people to be thoughtful. Don't just do the things you like, because that's not thoughtful.
Okay, so that's okay. That's one. Okay, which would bring me to the second one that you mentioned about turning the other cheek, right? Okay, so this part I think is a little bit up to interpretation, in the sense, because I think my understanding or how I understood the golden rule to mean, which I realized it could mean many things, is that you do unto others what you want others to do unto you, and not necessarily what they did to you. In a sense, even though you might slap me, but I don't want you to slap me, right? So it's not something that I want. So so don't reciprocate something that I don't want. So, but if you did something nice for me, you bought me coffee or whatever, and I like it, I wanted it, then I would do that onto somebody else. In that sense, that I think that the word want, I don't know whether it's in the actual, maybe I just made it up in my own head, but I think that kind of signifies a positive connotation to the whole idea of action lah. I mean, instead of just making it sound like it is action devoid of right or wrong, that means it's action. Whatever action, you return it. So in this case, when you say want, I feel like it's assumably a positive action lah. Like, because you want it. Let's put all this BDSM fantasy all that aside lah. This is you want something nice to happen to you,
right?
So you're and that's what you hope to kind of reciprocate and put it out in the world, right?
So I think this it starts from the initiation of behaviors, right? But when you respond to behaviors, sometimes you don't think about that, right? You're like, they wrong me, it's all fair game. And it's such a thing that I hear in every level of conversation. Politician wrong me, they are fair game, I'm going to shame them online. Somebody delivered my package late, I'm going to give them 1 star. But you don't respond in kindness, but you expect kindness, which is problematic.
No, I think what you're talking about is a very real issue that we face, I would dare say, as a society, because we have a tendency to kind of not look at things as what they are. For example, if I bought this mouse from Logitech, right? Suddenly, I'm not happy with it.
Advertiser plug.
I will remove that. No, yeah, but and if I'm not happy with it, right? Suddenly I go on this great massive rant against this evil corporation called Logitech, and how dare you guys do da, without realizing that at every point of interaction and chain of command, it's actually people. We are actually just dealing with people, right? I'm very aware of this only because I've been at the receiving end of a lot
Customer
of this.
Support?
Yeah, because people just become like literally mental. No, and mean is one, right? It's just like, how dare you do this? You don't have this is my right. And then I'm like, no, you don't have a right to yell at people. You don't have a right to scream at people. You don't have a right to insult people. You don't have these rights. But people think that I gave a company money, I can say whatever I want to you because I'm a customer. And I don't know where they got this from. I don't know, because I don't think it's Asian culture. It is not Asian culture to be so beat up to people, right? I don't know whether it's this one perverted American legalese kind of, I can sue you kind of deal. I have gotten for one t-shirt, I have a Accenture employee last time messaged me saying, my lawyers are CC'd in this email. I said that my reply, of course, me being a sarcastic bastard, I just said like, the t-shirt costs less than your lawyer's hourly fee. For your lawyer to open this email, it's going to cost you more than the t-shirt itself. Stop being silly. But that's just me. Like, I have a very sarcastic streak in me. But I was like so amazed. I'm pretty sure he didn't CC his lawyer out. But the fact that he felt that he could say that to scare somebody, instead of just saying, hey man, I really need this. Or, this is not what I expected. Can you refund me? Instead of behaving like a human to each other, you kind of just go into full-on rage, and in the sense of, your coffee doesn't taste nice and you think you can scream at the barista, you can scream at the waiter or whatnot. That part I don't understand, where we get to excuse truly horrific behavior.
Maybe it's not so much that we excuse it, it's we don't check ourselves. Because a lot of bad things that happen, they happen when you're not paying attention to what's going on. You're just letting your emotions take the driving wheel and just crash into a tree of disaster.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been there.
Right.
I would be lying to say if I didn't, but man, like, it is like such a norm, right? I have seen people proud that they can, flame someone, that they can, look what I do to this person on customer service, and I'm going to totally obliterate this person, right? And they take pride in that sometimes, which, like even, okay, I'll give you a very recent example. I sent a nasty email to a company this morning because I subscribed to their services. I didn't like it after a month. I unsubscribed, but they kept charging my card for 4 months in a row, and every time my card gets charged, I write them an email saying I already cancelled, remove my cancellation, and they keep charging me, right? So for me, it came to a point of, this is theft. Like, this is literally theft. I'm telling you, cancel. There's no automated way of removing my card details because they say you can only do it through email, and you're not acknowledging my email and you're refusing to cancel, right? So it has come to an extreme point. So I was chatting with with the representative, and I'm accusing them of stealing. I was just saying, this is theft because it's a different story of 1 month and you forgot to refund. But you've been doing this for 4 months while I've been emailing you. And at the end of the conversation, where I've fully, given my point across that I think y'all are stealing from me, blah, 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 I still apologize to the customer service person. I literally wrote there, I understand that you are not responsible for this. You are just a customer service person. That it just so happens that I'm very frustrated. I'm offloading on you. You have been very professional. I do apologize for any words, but I am very frustrated. Make sure this thing gets sorted. But it's not personal. Right?
I mean...
But how often... But that is because I caught myself at the end saying like, man, this is not the person who did this to you.
How do you catch yourself before? That's my question.
Before, that means don't do it at all?
No.
I don't think so. So here's the weird part, right? So we have come to another thing is, this is an American company taking my money. So
we don't like Americans.
So they do have a very clear, this is our terms and policy. They do hide behind the rules, right? So in a sense that I was harsh because when I was very cordial, they kept taking my money. For 4 months, they took my money. So it took to a point where I was very harsh and calling them all kind of, oh, you're stealing, this is fraud, what are you all doing? Before they have agreed to cancel. And I still don't know whether they have refunded me, because it's going to take a few days. But I don't think I would have, even the act of being rude, for me, I did it consciously because me being polite didn't get me the results that I wanted. So I had to go down this route to get what I want. Not proud of it. Had to apologize at the end of it.
Did you get
sucks. I don't know. They said they cancel. I don't know whether the money will be refunded or not.
We'll see next month.
Yeah. And then I will name the company and
in
never
the next
get sponsored
episode.
and not get any sponsorship. Right? Yeah, I don't think it is something that I'm definitely not proud about. But I don't know, man. I don't know whether it is what do you think? You just think you can be nicer people?
Is it worth it? If you got your money back and that was the way to do it, would it be worth it? I ask you that now, in retrospect.
I think the reason I was rude was because I thought it was worth it. Because if they're doing it to me, there may be countless other people who they're doing it to, and it doesn't make sense that they can so easily steal from people. That's what I didn't understand. It is.
But you're not going to solve the other people's problem. You're just going to get your money back.
No, but my email to them very specifically says, and I made complaints to international fraud organizations who look at e-commerce fraud as well, because I emailed and my conversation even with this company was that I want to hear back from your superiors, and I want it to be clearly said to me how this will not be repeated for me or any other customers in the future. You need to tell me how this will not be repeated. But to be frank, there is no way they can assure me they won't do this again.
Yeah. If anything, that's being firm. It's just the being the angry part, right? I kind of think about it this way. Maybe it's a question of if it's worth it, then we will do it. If it's not worth it, then we won't. Example, road rage. You get angry on the road and then you crash into the fella. Now, that is, I was angry. I took an action and it cost me. It was not worth it. So then I try and not do it lah. But in this case, if it's over a few bucks that you can probably go onto your card and just have them, what's that? I forget the term. Is it charge back or whatever?
Reverse
charge, exactly. Yeah. Then I think your negative feeling is not worth it, because it ruins the rest of your day, man. At least.
I don't know. That was this morning. I think I'm in an okay mood now.
I suppose. There we go. Because you have a great guest over.
Maybe I'm just like asshole by default. I'm so used to it.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
But you do have a point in the sense that by the sheer amount of times I've interacted with customers who have been unreasonable, and I've been on the receiving end of it, I am very aware if and when I do it to somebody, and I do it very reluctantly. And I don't like doing it, but I realized that at some point, even for example, I've sent my car in for service, right? And I was like, I keep emphasizing to them, like, these are the issues. I've come back twice. Please fix this. And the nicer you are, they just ignore you. And my car was not fixed for like a couple of weeks. They just kept my car. And then I was like following up with them politely. I don't even get a reply. Then I go all out psycho, and I'm like, I want to talk to your boss now. I'm going to come to your office and I'm going to throw a fit until somebody tells me what's happening with my car, what's going on, why don't I get a reply? And then all of a sudden they send me a spare car, and their manager delivers me a car that I can use while they hold on to my car because they have not done anything. So, the thing is, if I didn't go apeshit, they would not have solved my problem. But I didn't go apeshit first. I was trying to talk to them, message them repeatedly. You get ignored. And then it comes to a point where it's like, man, do you guys only respond when people go apeshit? So, and then you have to, either you accept, okay, I'm going to be a sucker and you can just not keep my car and I'll keep paying the payments on the car and you can keep it in your service center, or, So in that sense, I'm very aware of it only because I've received it before and I don't like it.
Right.
But at the same time, I'd be lying if I say that sometimes some people, they don't respond until you raise hell. And I think that's very sad,
So a personal challenge then would be to explore something like this. Every time that you can resolve something in a peaceful manner, as you were, I think you gain something, which is like a new kung fu. I look at it that way. Now, I'm not kind of telling you should live your life the way I live my life, but it's so interesting to say that at the beginning of this, before we started recording, you said there are many ways to live your life, right?
Yeah.
And that's why you want to do this podcast. And I think that one way is that where I think culturally we are exposed to the idea of shouting gets us results, or being aggressive gets us results. And if we look at what would the alternative be? Can I still get results? I bet there are interesting alternatives to explore. Side note, you need to watch The Wire if you haven't already.
No,
Look
I'm not.
at how in season 2, the bad guy negotiates. It's so interesting at how aggression is met with calm. And calm gets so many results in comparison to the aggression.
No, I'm number one, I will watch The Wire.
So good.
Okay. Number two, I am on board 100%
Yep.
the idea that the person who gets angry loses. I believe that. I believe if you
Yeah.
lose your temper, you have lost, right?
Totally.
Yeah. So here's the if you want to crawl into my headspace, right? It's almost like I do it deliberately to tell them I'm angry, where physically I'm not yelling at anyone. I'm not irritated.
totally,
It's in
totally.
the sense that you're like, oh, I gotta do this nasty email. I hate doing this, but whatever. This has to be done, lah. So and then you go into that mode. I would never want to go and yell at somebody to their face. God, no, I don't want to do that. I've done it before.
Right.
I don't like doing it.
Me too. I've done it.
Regretted it.
Yeah.
It's just no way to live. But then, all this, the two examples I've gave you was I would like to think very surgical, like, in the sense I did it deliberately to get the result that I want. I did it in a way that I want. The email I sent to this company, it was at 2 a.m. I was writing this nasty email and having this conversation with the support staff while my wife is in front of me. And we were talking about something that is perfectly neutral, smiling, and she thought I was actually writing up a proposal for something, and I was like, yeah, I'm writing a proposal. I don't want to tell her that, yeah, these idiots are taking my money, I'm just pissed off.
Right.
So in that sense that by no means am I do I believe that you need to be an asshole to get shit done. I don't subscribe to that. In fact, I had a podcast just this morning where this thing came up where we were talking about startups and how everybody is so in love with Steve Jobs, where the thing they take away from Steve Jobs is that, oh, he's an asshole, so you got to be an asshole to be successful. Oh, if you're a CEO, you got to be an asshole, right? Well, he was an asshole to the point of defending his vision, lah. So if you're defending your vision, great. But if you're just an asshole for being an asshole, then that's just stupid, lah, right?
Okay. Firm, maybe. Asshole? Necessary?
He was an asshole. Come on, the way he would treat some people. I mean, I think the difference is you want to be firm with someone, and okay, Hakim, I want to have a private conversation with you. I'll be very firm with you, and it's done. But if you want to, do it publicly, or the words that you choose, he's very eloquent, smart guy, and he's probably right. I'm not saying he was wrong, but telling somebody that they are wrong and you are right is an asshole move, lah. I mean, he's not. You know what I mean? So Jeff Bezos tells this story, right? When he was very young and he was in a camper van going on a trip with his grandparents, if I'm not mistaken. And he believes in, always saying the truth, blah, blah, blah. So if I'm not mistaken, the grandmother smokes occasionally, or she was smoking. So Jeff Bezos being very smart, he calculated how much time each cigarette will take away from your life, like how much you're shortening your life. He did a rough calculation on how many cigarettes the grandmother smokes, and he basically went to the grandmother and said, like, if the way you're smoking now, you're going to die in XYZ years, lah. You're going to die in so many years. And the grandmom just broke down crying, lah. Imagine your grandkid coming to you and saying you're going to die, blah, 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 and all that. So, and he was like confused. What? I just told her the facts. It's the truth. She's smoking. This is what's going to happen. And the grandfather took him aside and said, it's very important for you to understand the difference between being right and being kind, right? And you can be right and be very unkind, right? And in that sense, that's what I mean by Steve Jobs' version of an asshole. He's not wrong. He is right. But he's also, the stories all are infamously unkind, right? So you can agree with it or disagree with it, but it doesn't make it not an asshole. I mean, he's,
Sure.
in the sense.
Right.
And to that extent, I think hearing these stories, I think to the best ability, I think we all want to be kind. I would like to think that we all want to be kind. But it's not always easy.
You have one kid now.
One son.
One.
Yeah, one.
Okay. And how do you think you might download kindness upon this young human being?
Man, this will be the motherload of assumptions. I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay.
I have no idea. And I say that because me and my sister, there's only two of us, we grew up in the same household, same parents. We are very different people. We have very different values. And how we tackle problems and how we look at things are very different. So it's for me to think that I can mold my son's character, I think is very wishful thinking, because great, amazing parents still have serial murderers as kids, right? It's not, serial killers don't come from serial killer parents necessarily, right? So I'm not saying we don't have an impact. We definitely have an impact. But it is to an extent. So my goal, and the part of his life that I think I do have an influence on is I really want to help him think. Help him how to think, not what to think. What you think is totally up to you, right? But how to think, when you look at something, how do you look at it? How do you analyze the situation? The decision is still yours. You can make whatever decision. But I think what I have control is when you look at something, learn what to think like. In the sense, learn how to think. That is, again, very conceptual. It is something that when shared with people laugh at me. So once I am trying it, I can give more updates. But right now, it's just very conceptual.
How old?
2. He just turned 2.
Awesome. And if our earlier conversation has any bearing, also how to check in with yourself. Being able to know what you're feeling is quite a useful skill.
No, it's tough, man, because you see, even like me and my wife, we have very different philosophies on
child rearing.
On what we think is important, right? Like, and I don't think she's wrong. I'm pretty sure she thinks I'm wrong, but I don't think she's wrong per se, right? In the sense that, I think my one philosophy, and it's ridiculous when I say it out loud, but I think it still holds water. The minute my goal in life is to not be a cool dad. I do not, for the life of me, want to be a cool dad, whatever that means. Because all my life, anytime somebody says they want to be cool, it just leads to really stupid things.
Okay.
In a sense, because I feel the minute you want to be cool is you kind of want to be accepted or viewed favorably by whom, I don't know, like other parents, other kids, I don't know, or your own kid. But then I think we should never make those kind of decisions based on what other people think of you. Is you do what you think is right. So if I'm the old naggy father, I'm okay with that. I don't need to be come, let's smoke up a joint, son. I don't need to be the guy. I might be the guy at some point, but, I don't know. I don't know if that even makes sense. Does that make sense to you?
Kind of. Like, I think if everyone is seeking cool as end goal, you're saying that problems inevitably present themselves. However, if the end goal is a little bit more centered around the self, then maybe you have a chance to live a better life.
Yeah, maybe bringing it back to the golden rule, right? My issue is cool has no definition of good and bad, right?
Ooh,
there is
bad
just
and
no.
good. That's a tough one.
No, in the sense that, cutting class is cool. Being smart is also cool. Where does cool, in the sense that it's not cool to be stupid, right? But it's also cool to, don't go to school. It's cool to, drink alcohol. It's not cool to get drunk and get into an accident. So cool is such a vague concept that anybody can paint it any way they want. Some people think that doing drugs is cool. Some people think not doing drugs is cool. So you are forever at somebody else's mercy.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's very ridiculous, because one person might look at you and say like, oh, you discipline your kids. Man, that's cool. You really are very tough on your kids, huh? And some people say, what? You hit your kids? You're nuts. You are a tyrant. You're abusive. You should be in jail, right? We are so subject to what other people think, And then if you are reactive to that, if somebody says, oh, you're not a cool parent, and then you're like, oh, I'm not cool, and then you're reactive to. So that's why I feel like this idea of trying to be cool is the biggest mistake somebody can make in your life. Be yourself. If people think you're cool, great. But just be yourself, right? Without being too preachy lah. I don't know.
That sounds fair.
Yeah. I've unfortunately I have given some thought to this lah, in the sense of, but I don't know, man. There's no real answer to this training and raising a little creature into hopefully a useful person.
Are you reading any books about kids?
I think you should not read any books about kids. I think that's a huge mistake, reading books about kids. And I know it's a very, to say not reading or to say reading is a mistake is actually a big mistake in itself.
Counterintuitive.
Yeah, but I think it's very tough because even talking to people, talking to other parents, everybody has their own philosophy on life. Just like how insane I sound, other parents sound just as insane, right? And just because somebody writes a book about it, there's no such thing as an expert on raising kids. And the only expert on raising kids is probably a parent who has done it lah. And if you've only done it for like 2 kids and you think you can write a book about it, I don't know. I do sound the ignorance coming out of my mouth.
Okay, let's take just a rewind a little bit. I think having other frames of reference is usually useful, right? That's kind of like advice. You can talk and people can give you advice, but you shouldn't follow just because this person is cool or this person is old or this person is rich. Doesn't mean that the advice works for you, right? So it's almost like advice and books, reference points, and I suppose you have to synthesize and make decisions on your own. So I like the idea of more data rather than less, because bad decisions come with less data, usually.
I would disagree with you.
Tell me more.
Okay, so the example I can give you, right, is when my wife got pregnant, right? We got a lot of good, well-wishing people giving us books on pregnancy, what to expect, blah, blah. And my wife at one point was quite gung-ho to read them all during her pregnancy and all that. And she was like, you also must read. I was like, I'm not going to read it. And she's like, why? Oh, don't you want to understand? I said, like, show me people who have read this book. Tell me who are the smart people that you think have read this book and have handled pregnancy really well. And she thought about it. And then when we talked about it again, all the people who read that we know, okay, I'm not going to generalize to the whole world. When you're over-informed about something, your mind always overthinks. And I suppose how I'm approaching marriage and even child rearing is kind of a lot like how I approach starting a new company, right? In the sense that if you knew everything about starting a business, a specific industry, actually you wouldn't start it, because the risks of failing far outweigh the chances of you succeeding, right? So there is, in entrepreneurship and all that, there is a certain level of risk and ignorance on your part to kind of go and not know what's going on, but it's okay, I'll figure it out. But because what I know is I want to do this and I'll figure it out along the way. I know a lot of people who are very smart, who are, probably 10 times smarter than me, who will not start a business because they are so well versed with the risks of failing that they're just like, I will not start a business. And these people, if you ask me, should start business because their level of knowledge and expertise in a subject matter, they'll do better than most people. But knowing too much can also be a problem because it kind of stops you and you're overanalyzing instead of just kind of organically learning on the job. So that, having said that, I never read any books. And because of me, my wife never read any books. And if I were to compare just not myself, there's no performance of a husband during a pregnancy because you don't do shit. But having seen how my wife dealt with the first pregnancy and she was working the whole time, she did it like a rock star. Right? And I think she did it also because there was nothing in her mind telling her, oh, this could go wrong and that could go wrong and don't do this and don't do that. Because the minute we talk to somebody who has read too much, are you taking this vitamin? Are you taking that vitamin? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Are you doing that? And then like, have you done this test? Have you done that test? And this overcomplicating of things, which I think does not do you any good lah. Unless you are very mature, very rational, you can take in information without allowing the information to kind of like worry you or get you worried. So even with kids, like there's so many things on a daily basis that we don't understand. We are learning every day, and sometimes he does something totally stupid and something does something totally amazing, and we're kind of learning on the job, right? But if we actually went through the process of reading and this is what your kids should be doing at 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and we are forever not experiencing. We are just expecting, why hasn't he said these words yet? Or why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he doing that? And that kind of, I think it takes the fun out of parenting. I think the fun is not knowing. The learning, oh, cool. Oh, shit. Oh, your son is already talking. Wow, mine's just still mumbling away, So knowing something, too much of something can also be a bad thing. I would be ignorant if I say it. For sure it's bad. But I think most people cannot take in that kind of information and not let it affect their emotions. And
I see.
Because some people I hear their kid doesn't speak early enough and they're very worried. Parents are very worried. Oh no, we have to send for therapy. One of my closest friends, and I'm like, dude, your kid's okay. I've met him. He's cool. I mean, just keep encouraging him, keep trying. And the thing is, we should do whatever we can to help the child. But worrying doesn't help. That worrying part is the part that sitting and worrying about your kid. What good does it come from that?
Right. And let's be clear, I'm coming from zero perspective here. No kids on my end.
I'm an expert. I'm an expert of one kid to 2 years. No, but the truth is, dude, every parent you talk to will probably sound like me.
Right.
Will probably sound like an expert because I am an expert when it comes to my son of 2 years that I know. When it comes to my neighbor's kid, I'm an idiot. I have no idea what they are, what they need. I'm only an expert when it comes to this little creature that I'm familiar with, right?
And I think that's super important to take into account. Like, you probably encounter this when you build something or you are starting a company. Everything is kind of unique to your situation, but also other people have experienced it, and to take in too much input would only cause a little to be overwhelmed, right?
Yeah, okay, that's a good word. Yeah, overwhelmed. And to your point, I don't mean that, oh shit, something went wrong, please don't read a book. I don't mean never read a book. I mean, if there's something that's worrying you and you want to check on something, yes. But I think a kid is not like a manual that you can read up on and like, oh yeah, do this and that'll work, and do that and this will work, right? And I think that would lead to a lot of frustration.
One of the big reasons why I left Startup Land was I felt this self-reliance was tiring me out, man. Just a slight aside for this, like I have to figure it out as I'm doing it, and I'm constantly solving problems on my own steam. That got me thinking that maybe there are frameworks to do this stuff. Maybe there are frameworks to live life a little better. This oftentimes takes a left turn into religion usually. But I realized that maybe not answering the question of what should I do, but how should I think about doing it is valuable across the board. Because the thinking about how to do something, right, then allows you to come to your own conclusion. But sometimes figuring out what to think about, that one is quite tiring on your own. So maybe content that might help you think about what to think about, as it were. Meta, I know.
No, but you are right. I think if you're talking from a context of a startup, I think even when you talk to what most might consider successful startups, people who have raised crazy money, have great valuations. Malaysia, not many exits, but there are a few exits. Even if you talk to these founders and all, there is a lot of exhaustion. Even in the best case scenarios, the guys who we think are crushing it, right? Even when you talk to them, there's a lot of exhaustion, even from them. So I personally, I know I feel it. People I talk to, yeah, you are definitely not alone, man. In the sense of it does get tiring after a while. I think to your earlier point as well, is after 3 years we should have gotten our shit together, in the sense that there should have been some stability in the company, blah blah blah, so you don't have to firefight anymore, or you hire another schmuck to be you and do the firefighting on your behalf. But you were saying
Can't do that with kids.
Sorry?
Can't do that with kids.
People do, right? People do that all the time.
yeah.
We have nannies, and we have
Maids.
daycare, we
Right.
have maids. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's the life that we live. Like, if you have to work 18 hours a day to support your lifestyle, and your kid has to go to a nursery or spend more time with the maid, that's the kind of call that we have to make, lah.
Right.
It'll be fun if you can just spend 24 hours with your kid. Your kid will probably hate you for it as well, being an annoying parent. But I don't know. I think I know I sound very rigid when it comes to kids, but I'm actually extremely flexible in the sense that I think the way you approach our own life and in extension, our family's life is very individual. I worry when you said books, I worried a lot because I've heard of books and advice, and especially from context of different cultures. Like, I like Jordan Peterson and like what he talks about and all that, but he's got a book on how to raise kids, and that's like, how does raising a kid in context of a Canadian man, a professor, is going to be highly applicable to me here? Of course, the correct answer is I should read it and find out whether it's applicable or not. But so yeah, even though I like him, I like how he thinks, I like how critical he is and all that. But even then, when he talks about this is how you raise a kid, I don't know whether that is something that I would just follow blindly or consume.
Sounds like sound thinking, one way or the other.
But you also mentioned something just now that taking a left turn into religion. Did you take a left turn to religion? Oh,
I did.
Interesting. How did that go?
So I started looking at how religious frameworks work, because the way I thought about it was like...
But you were saying that it started off because of your burnout from work, from like startups, and always solving your own problems kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that drove you into spirituality. That's very interesting, huh?
I think about it, right? You said this earlier. You were talking about how you solve problems as they come about, right? And that's tiring if you're doing it for 3 straight years, 6 straight years.
Yes.
So you start asking, all right, how do other people solve problems? And then one of the mechanisms, probably one of the oldest mechanisms, is like I do what my religion tells me to, and then it helps me sleep at night.
Okay.
Now, I think not to outsource all of my life to religion. I just feel like I was looking for a little bit of a guardrail to help me go like, all right, what's important? Is being happy important? Is being is doing the thing that I do, solving problems important? What's my purpose? So I was like, okay, let's explore. I have explored the work approach to this answer.
Okay.
And I didn't really get a clear indication one way or the other.
Okay.
Then I approached sort of the social, volunteering, doing good.
Oh, okay. Okay. I hear you.
And I'm like, okay, it's an unlimited black hole that you can keep throwing in goodness and you can still be pretty empty. So I think, and not to preach too much here.
Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. Please be yourself.
It comes back to looking at what's inside. So for those of you that have done therapy or meditation or prayer, I think that's kind of the same thing.
Okay.
It forces you to keep quiet.
Okay.
And ask yourself what you're feeling.
Okay.
And then you can move forward based on what you're feeling. Because oftentimes you move forward based on your externalities.
Okay. Okay. So I will, before I say anything, I'll just give you a little bit of a caveat on my approach to religion, right?
Tell me.
I'm Hindu by birth, and Hindu in the sense that it says that on my birth cert, right? I see it as like my name. It's a part of my culture. But I would be lying if I said I was a religious person. Like religious to the point of saying, oh, I follow all the traditions and all. Not really. Do I have affinity, or do I feel I'm affinity to certain deities in the Hindu scriptures? Yeah, I do. Because for me, it's very cultural and personal, right? And so, in that sense, I would say that probably I am spiritual, but I can't really put my finger on it, right?
Okay.
And my approach to religion as a whole is, I see it as one. I can't bring myself to see different religions as different things. Why I say that is because, everybody in every part of the world sees the sun, right? But, if you're in India, you call it the Suryan, right? If you're in Malaysia, you'll say Matahari. And if you're, in England, you'll say it's the sun. So we see the same thing, we kind of experience the same thing, but we call it what we want to call it and however we want to relate to it. So that's kind of how I feel with kind of religion, as in it's probably something there that we all can't really grasp, and each culture is kind of grasp it the way they feel they have grasped it. So, so in the sense, when I say religion, I can't bring myself to talk about a specific religion. I feel it's, there's parallels for Hinduism and Christianity and Islam and Buddhism and all that. So having said that, I do feel that religion is my stand on religion. I feel religion is necessary but not mandatory, right?
Tell me more.
In the sense that if at times we are lost, or if you feel you're lost, or if you feel that you kind of can't make sense of life, I think there's a lot of meaning that religion can bring into your life to kind of get you to put things into context and kind of look at it in a very humanistic, global, or even universal way, right? But having said that, if you are in touch with your humanity, if you have a set of values that is already aligned with religion, right? That means you already believe that you should be good to people, you shouldn't harm other people, if you're in a position to help, you help, and all this kind of stuff, then you don't really need religion, because you already have the values that, so that's why I say it's not mandatory. It's necessary, because God knows not everybody has universal values lah, right? So coming from that, I think one of the things that I notice people struggle with religion is that it's almost a one-size-fit-all kind of mold, right? In the sense that most religions don't address your unique, how do I say,
disposition,
or your personality, or you know. So if you are, it is a one answer for all your problems, or all of humanity's problems kind of deal, right?
Really?
In a sense, I mean, that's again, it's just an interpretation, right?
Okay.
I think especially when it comes to religion, anybody who tells you this is what it actually is talking crap. Like, it's just all our interpretation of what we feel it is and all that, right? So I feel it's so some people might be okay with that generalization, but some people might not find, you know, if you don't fall in that category of what it's being talked about. Like if you're looking for meaning from work, it'll be very hard to find that meaning in religion when you relate to work specifically, right? So in that sense, that has been my struggle, because I can't apply it. I can't safely go out and tell my son, oh, you're a Hindu. Be a Hindu, follow the Hindu values, blah blah blah. Only because I don't know if it applies to him. I don't know whether he has good values or he will have good values. And if you do, you know, so in the sense, that's my take on religion in the sense. So when I'm very interested when you say that you came from a frustration from work, and that and religion gave you some framework of tackling it, right? I don't know how to do that with work and religion, because I feel that the framework is it's a standardized framework for everybody. So it might not necessarily apply to you, or you're filling in the blanks with your own reality.
Framework is not rules, yeah? Framework is like a suggestion of how to think about stuff. And let's give context. Work was life for me at that time. Like my life and my work, like this. This is a podcast. Cannot see.
Ada. Hopefully, I'll get my YouTube channel going so people can see.
but they were one and the same, right? So my identity was very wrapped up in the things that I did for work. Now, I think few things. First, how do I use it to live better? That was the one goal that I was looking for. But to give you a better idea, here's how I grew up. Okay. If you can imagine a quadrant, on the y-axis, you have people who are religious. On the x-axis, you have people who are thoughtful. I spend my youth with people who are religious, top left, but not thoughtful. They just did. It was a sense of, these are rules, these are pluses, these are minuses. This is how I need to live my life.
Okay.
I hated it.
So that was
my
rules,
childhood.
It's like rules lah. It's not really thinking. It is not really okay.
So ones and zeros, scores on. They were playing
Somebody
checkers.
told me to do this, so I'm just doing it. Okay, got it.
So I very quickly moved away from religious and not thoughtful to not religious and thoughtful. So that's my adult life.
So when do you think you moved into that? When you started working, into college?
College,
yeah. Okay.
I think I always had a sense that even when I was young, because when you're young, your social circles are pretty limited, right? So like college onwards, you get to choose.
Yeah.
So like, okay, none of this.
Okay.
So from religious and not thoughtful, I wanted to move to thoughtful and not religious.
Okay.
So right bottom.
So
right.
Would you say that due to you before that observing religious and not thoughtless
and not thoughtful,
right? And did you think that at that point did you think, oh, there's a correlation between being religious and not being thoughtful? So I'd rather be not religious because then I can be thoughtful, so to speak. I mean, I don't know whether you would.
I did.
Okay.
I had a very basic sort of. There was no nuance in how I read it, right? Because I kept seeing people who were religious were not thoughtful, and I thought these people silly. I don't want to be like them. So I want to find people who are thoughtful, and if they are thoughtful, they cannot be religious, right? Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I spend my a lot of my adult life hanging out with people who are makers, people who build their own businesses and startups and technology, because this is like the epitome of self-powered success, and success
Master
is
of
life.
your own universe kind of deal.
Totally.
Okay, I can see that.
And at some point, right, either you succeed at what you're going for or you fail at it, inevitably, one or the other. And then you ask yourself,
or you're male, you can just be in the middle.
Or you're male. What now? Where do I go? Okay. So accidentally, maybe about 5 years ago, I connected with somebody who was religious.
Okay.
But thoughtful. I was like, boom.
Okay.
Mind exploded. And then I started to kind of be a little less loud about it. I was like, oh, religious people are not thoughtful. And I was like, oh, there's a potential for this nuance here. And I kind of started exploring myself, and I found that I'm jumping to the end here.
Sure.
I kind of found that the key thing for me was that religion or faith, let's go.
Faith, yeah.
Okay.
Faith, yeah.
Not the rule stuff, but the way of thinking helps me look at myself from outside myself. I am a viewer of me as somebody else would be.
You're conscious of who you are and how you behave, how you act, what your impact is on the world.
A little bit more. I'm more aware. Now looking back, I think I could have achieved the same kind of conversation with mindfulness and meditation. I didn't discover that first. I came to that after the religious epiphany, as it were.
Okay.
But I now see them to be very closely related for my purposes. And so I think it humbled me to the idea that, okay, I should definitely not just be living for myself. What that is depends person to person. It could be for your kids. It could be for your God. It could be for your whatever lah. But for me, it was clear. Not living just for myself then opens me up to do things in a more meaningful sort of way for me. Because if I'm only focused on what I want, like I lose sight of the rest of the world.
No, I hear you. I have to say I agree with most of the things that you're saying. Right.
Cool.
And my opinion in most cases is that when we say people of faith when people of faith come together, I feel 99% of the time we align and we agree on most things on life regardless of what your faith is. I think in terms of the key values, the things that we actually disagree upon is not much. It's not many, right? So for me, the way I look at it as well is there's, like you said earlier, that the quadrants, right? Being religious doesn't necessarily mean you're thoughtful, right? But that also means that if you're thoughtful, doesn't necessarily mean you have to be religious, right? So I think that's the kind of let's call it the plane of uncertainty that is the limbo that where I live, in the sense that if I were to use another word other than faith, if I were to say, I believe that there's good people from all races, all religion, all ages, and some might be religious, some might not be religious, some and so I think the fact that and if I'm talking from the context of my own life, and if you're saying I've met Hindu people who are extremely religious, who I don't think are good people, right? And of course that can push you away from religion, because you kind of brand religion as these people are the religion, right? They are the representative of the religion, right?
That's a very interesting and oftentimes confused relationship. Think about it this way. People who are religious are thought to be moral, and when they behave in a non-moral way, that is somehow a reflection of the religion. Actually, people are people. Religion is religion. So people are moral or not moral depending on the situation, their upbringing, blah, blah, blah.
The irony of it all is that people actually go to the temple and pray before they commit some kind of crime, right? And I would dare say criminals pray a lot to not get caught, right? And so you are right in the sense that religion and moral is not necessarily the same. It can be the same, but it's not necessarily the same. But it is very hard to talk to people. And you see, even when I started this podcast, one of the things that people said I will go to jail for is talking about politics and religion, right? And what I found hard to reconcile is, why can't we, have these discussions, not criticizing one way or the other, but it is our different interpretations of what it is. And I don't know how to reconcile it, in the sense that I feel there are some of the kindest people I've met are religious people, and some of the kindest people I've met are also not religious people. So how do I reconcile kindness and religion?
The easiest way is you decouple. You don't put it on the religion to make good people.
I agree.
But you also say that people who sometimes are flawed. No,
I mean, we are all flawed. I mean, we are all flawed. There's
okay,
no
that's
question
a
about
great
that.
way to look at it.
Yeah.
Flawed people, if you apply kindness and a little bit of faith, they can go a long way in terms of working through their flaws. So religion is not so much, in my mind, a full stop, end to a journey. It's the experience of that journey of fixing, working through those flaws. Because we got to accept that we are flawed to move into a direction where we can work on our flaws.
But would you say your approach or your journey in religion is common, or do you say you have a unique approach with religion, or you think this is the common practice and people just don't know how to express it to people? What would be is your view of how you view your journey with religion now, right? Do you think that's how most people think and view and experience religion?
I think everybody's journey may have probably a lot of variation from one to another, but there are probably like archetypes. Let's call them general storylines. I think mine is one general storyline where it was not the downloaded from youth general storyline. It was the general storyline of hit a problem, look for an approach to address the problem, and then found that this works. I think a lot of people, I'm not saying all people, I'm saying a lot of people, it's a very reoccurring theme, right? Religion and salvation. You have this in Christianity, you have this in a lot of the Judeo-Christian, Abrahamic religions. Salvation is...
Hey, Hakim, can I just tell you that I am by no means the least bit qualified to have this conversation. So,
neither am I.
Please.
Neither am I. We're just shooting the shit. Right?
Yeah. And yeah, I do. I think again, I've had these conversations with people of faith, people of religion, and is there's 99 of the things is completely in agreement, right? So for me, is great. This means that you can be what religion you want to be. I can be what religion I can be, and we can all get along. So that is my takeaway from what I said earlier. That I think it is necessary but not mandatory, in the sense that I don't see a situation where I can go to someone and say, you must become a Hindu, even if that someone is my son.
Yeah.
Even if that is my son, although in his birth cert is Hindu lah, because he's born, is my son or whatnot. But then, by no means can I be going up and say, oh, you have to do this ritual, you have to do that ritual, blah blah. If he gravitates, he likes it, whatever. It's up to him. But yeah, man, this is a complex. I don't know. I don't dare call it a subject. It's more important than that, but it is. It's tough to talk about this without pissing people off.
I mean, you said so. You said earlier that your goal was not to become a cool dad, and in that respect, how other people do their things should just frame what works for them.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I have a friend who was born Muslim. It didn't really work for him. Got married to somebody that also born Muslim, didn't really work for her. Had a few kids and said, you know what? Just because that default religion didn't work for us, we're not going to force our kids to not have. So they went out and educated their kids with Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, and said, hey, this is what's available, you guys choose.
Okay, it's funny you should mention that, because growing up, my mom who I can safely say is a devout Hindu lah, but my mom, growing up, when I was a kid, she has taken me to mosques. If she drives by, this Chinese tokong by the side of the road, sometimes people have outside their house, she'll pull up and she'll light a joystick. And so I grew up with a very accepting mindset towards religion, in the sense that I have a very universal appreciation for religion. There's a lot of beauty in religion, right? And I have an appreciation for it, but I can't bring myself to draw hard lines, or even when it comes to whether it's Hinduism or even when it comes to like atheism. I think atheism also is it's a bag of worms or can of worms on its own, because there's a lot of anything that goes out to say, listen here, I am right, you are wrong, is not going to solve any problems lah. So in that sense, I find it hard to adhere to a religion and saying this is the answer. But at the same time, I'm also very accepting of all religions.
Can I tell you what my opinion is wrong with just about every religion? I think religion is, a lot of people can agree, religion is definitely between the person and their creator. Okay, right? That much nobody, it's like, oh, okay, it's you and them. But the problem starts when the expansion starts, where it's like, okay, now that we're going from you and your creator, now tell everybody about it. It's the share with friend problem.
Yeah. A lot of people are not comfortable talking about it. I don't know whether I'm intelligent enough to articulate it the right way, but the way I see it, most religions, the flaw starts with their marketing and expansion plan, when they go like, how do we get more people to come into this faith, right? And then it no longer becomes, sometimes, not always, about between you and the creator. It kind of becomes about, hey, why you should join this team. And I don't know that, whether it's any religion, they all have their marketing strategies, so to speak.
I'm super curious. I don't know enough about Hinduism to answer
you probably
this.
know more than me.
Like, I know in Islam and Christianity, there's definitely an initiation component where you're like, all right, if you subscribe to this religion, you need to say these things. Is there such a thing with Hinduism?
I'm pretty sure I'm not the right person for this question, but from what little I understand, what I'm made to understand is that probably Hinduism or Hinduism and I'm trying to get the right word. I think the civilization is very old, right? So it and they were it predates them wanting to do marketing. Is how I understand it.
Okay.
In the sense that spreading Hinduism was never a thing. So there's no actual doctrines or guides or rules on how, if you want to become a Hindu, you're a Hindu. It's in the sense there's no such thing as, oh, you have to do X, Y, Z, then you become Hindu. Right?
Oh, you just think it and you are basically.
No, not even that. It's not even that. So where the divisiveness comes is when human beings want to form circles, right? So even when you look at Hinduism and you look at India, they carve them out into, oh, I'm a Brahmin and I'm this, I'm a Dalit, I'm this and that, and then they suddenly have all this different factions. So the factions have their rules to, oh, you are Brahmin only if you're born a Brahmin and this is your rituals, you have to be close to God, blah blah blah. But it's not Hinduism per se, right? It is factions. It's almost ethnicity. It's all It's not the religion itself, but people conflate it.
Right.
Again, I'm definitely not the expert. This is just what my harebrained understanding of the religion is like.
Okay.
If I were to be extremely crass about it, my understanding is that they were too lazy to spread the religion, and they didn't just bother with how do we spread the religion. Don't worry about it. It's how it was handled, right? So in the sense that the divisiveness that comes in the society is actually by class, and we have our famous class systems on who's closer to God and all that, and not necessarily attached to religion per se, but they conflate it lah.
Okay.
So again, I'm not an expert, so I could be just spitting bullshit.
Hey, that's what we're here. Opinions.
So in that sense, I don't know, man. But having said that, I wish I could paint Hinduism as a very chilled out, don't give a fuck about expansion deal, but you slaughter a cow in India and people go ape shit and they start murdering people. So
not religion problem, people problem.
Yes. But they want to brand it religion. That is the issue when you do stupid things, but you want to do it in the name of something that it is not actually about lah.
That's easy to do.
Yeah, lor. That's how people do it lah.
Why you did this? Oh, I'm defending honor.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. I don't know how much of this podcast I have to edit out.
Probably most of it.
I hope not. It'll be a very interesting experiment. Maybe I'll just change your pseudonym to Christopher something, so we don't walk into
who's that fella?
Snakes. But you know what? I do think we need to have this type of conversations more. Yes, in the context of our culture and Malaysia, it is a very highly fueled, difficult conversation to have. Because I can safely say that if the wrong people, whether it's Hindus or Muslims, if the wrong people who are easily triggered listen to this, they will get triggered. Even though we are probably not casting any kind of judgment or anything, is a sharing of thoughts and opinions, you can still rub people the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, conversation is sometimes tiring. Thinking is sometimes tiring. And if you don't want to try these two first, then a tweet will do.
Yeah.
Take down.
Are you still active on Twitter?
No.
Moving on to a lighter tone. I have not been active on Twitter for a good 3-4 years. No, more than that.
Same.
And
not Instagram, not Facebook.
Facebook. I've actively stayed out of Facebook for 2020, just to kind of detox. of course, but doing this podcast, the question I'm asked is, hey, where are you sharing this podcast? And I'm like, I'm not sharing it anywhere.
YouTube.
Just putting it out in the world and seeing what it attracts, But why? Is there a reason of cutting back social? Because we all met through social media, and even the other day I was having a conversation with James Warbaby, James Chong.
I remember James.
Maying, and all these people. And I'm inviting these people on my podcast and talking
Shout
to
out
them.
James.
And but everybody is not so active anymore on social media. So who are the people who are active, and why are they active, and why are we not active any longer?
Maybe well, I can speak for myself. I think at one point I just felt like I was putting out a lot of noise, and I forgot why it was important to kind of share my every waking thought. And I was like, okay, maybe if I don't, it'll be okay also. And I tried it, and I was like, oh, the world didn't end. My opinion is still in my head.
No, actually, that's a very beautiful notion to realize that nobody gives a fuck about you.
Yeah,
is very liberating. And it's a very good feeling if you can accept it. I mean, if you don't accept it and then you're like all depressed that, oh, nobody cares, and okay, that can lead to your own trauma. But if you can accept that nobody gives a shit about you, everybody cares about themselves, I think it's very liberating. I don't know whether it's coming out the right way, but it's
it's close. It's close. Yeah. I just thought that sometimes just putting stuff out is a lot for people to take in, right? So maybe if I put less stuff out and I had fewer conversations, I would be happier as a result. And I was. So I just changed the medium of the conversation. I just didn't need to have a conversation between one and many anymore. I moved towards more like one to a few. I think that was around the time WhatsApp became pretty crazy. Who knew? I think Google Plus. My phone is listening.
Yeah, that's the man.
Yeah. I think it tried to do these circle things, right? Because you want to communicate with a small circle, but WhatsApp killed it with the groups, right?
Yeah.
So that was it for me.
Yeah, I think that's one of the shocking things that Google thought, with all the data, with all the people, with everybody in love with the brand. I love Google, but I could not bring myself to use Google Wave, Google Circles, Google. What's their social media that they had? Google. Yes, so many Plus, Plus, and which they discontinued, right? Which they threw in the towel, they discontinued it and all that.
Yeah.
So that's one of those mysteries, man.
But I think WhatsApp really killed it when it came to small circles of people that communicate very deeply.
I have a theory on this, which I shared with Mei Ying as well, on why the way we were, say 10 years ago, when maybe our Twitter 1.0 click kind of people, we all tend to tweet and talk and meet up and tweet up and all that stuff. My working theory is that we only have X amount of attention to give, right? And we were excited about Twitter, we're giving attention, but the minute we got into, relationships, or whether a career took over our lives or whatever it is, suddenly our attention is going elsewhere. And sometimes when I'm eating something really yummy, I don't put it on Facebook. I send it to my wife. It's like, oh, this is so cool, you should try it, right? And if I'm sitting with my wife and we're having something yummy, chances are I'm telling her it's yummy and not actually taking a photo and tweeting it, right? So I think the minute you find another avenue to put in your attention, whether it's a person or a thing or whatever, you tend to lose the excitement to post on Twitter or Instagram, blah blah blah, right? And Mei Ying shared a reverse observation. It's saying like, and she was like, if somebody looks too happy on social media, they're probably not happy. And it can't be true for everyone, but to a certain degree, it holds some water. Like if you're trying very hard to paint this amazing life on Facebook, chances are you're probably not having an amazing life. Because
Hashtag blessed.
hashtag blessed, hashtag why are you saying blessed all the time? But yes, absolutely. So I don't know. These are just our little idiosyncrasies and our little assumptions that, now that we are, dare I say, old versions of ourselves, no longer tweeting and FBing, sounds quite wrong, or Instagramming as much as we used to. I don't know, man. What does that mean?
Do you dive?
Dive as in dive into the water dive?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I started a few years ago.
Okay.
I really like it.
Okay.
I've never really done the take pictures of stuff under the water, primarily because I don't have a camera.
Okay.
But I have borrowed other people's, and I feel that the experience is a little bit more enjoyable to just dive and look around, and not try to want to capture everything so I can remember it later. I think there's benefit in capturing a few things. It's like, I was there, one photo. Okay, a year later I'll remember this, which is cool. But nuance is necessary. So if I'm capturing 65,000 photos, so I can pick 20 that I want to upload and tell the world I'm having such a hashtag blessed dive trip, it's just too tiring. And I'm just not that interesting.
No, what was the movie with Ben Stiller? Walter Mitty? Walter Mitty? What's the full name? What Extraordinary Life of Walter? It's a longer name. That was it. And number one, that movie had a kick-ass soundtrack. I love the soundtrack to that movie, right? But number two, I think there's one part where, what's his name? Sean Penn, the photographer, right? Where he spots this really rare snow leopard where he's been camping out to sea, and then he doesn't take the photo because, sometimes this is for me and I just like to experience it. And that resonates. I know it was supposed to be a very corny, poignant moment in a funny movie, but at the same time, it resonates a lot because if we are not living in the moments that we are experiencing, and if we are, the quintessential photo is always a kick-ass concert, and then you see all these phones and iPads and all that up there taking a video of the concert, instead of actually watching and enjoying the concert of someone you obviously enjoy, you bought tickets to, right? So instead of living in the moment, you're trying to record the moment for another moment. It's never going to be as good as the moment that you're in. Right there, right then, right? So the importance of not taking a photo and not taking a video or not trying to capture it, I see value in that. Also because I'm very lazy to take photos. So it resonates with me a lot. But I like the fact that, hey man, I went here, I enjoyed it. I didn't have to take a photo. And I, don't have to put it. I think the time when I posted the most photos is probably after a breakup with an ex or something like that. And you want to show that I've moved on, look at my life is so awesome, right? But you feel stupid now that I think about it. Man, so what? Live your life, so what, right? But but I think the importance in not needing to share your experience. You don't have to share it. You don't have to take a picture of it. You don't have to take a video of it. And it'll be okay.
Right. I've come out on the other side and I've realized that even if I'm not holding my phone, taking a picture, tweeting somebody, I can still not be in the moment. When I'm thinking about work or something else, there is so much distraction. I don't legit ask yourself this question. When is the last time you really tasted your food?
Okay, we started cooking for the past 6 months at home, so we are like food critics to our own cooking. So we do enjoy the moment. It's our my married life. My dating is cooking and eating dinner or lunch on my table with my wife. So they're very simple people in that sense. We don't go out to fancy restaurants. So yes, we do enjoy our food together, and we're like, orgasming with the food. Not literally, obviously. I mean, in the mouth with the food. Okay, don't take it the wrong way.
It keeps getting better. I love it. But
in the sense that not to belittle your point, I hear you, and I agree with you that when I think it is equivalent to when did you last stop and smell the roses kind of deal, right? Where something that happens every day and you just take things for granted. You take the things that you experience, the things that you drink and eat for granted, and you're just like, it's just part of life. Until I hear you, man, and I think that's a very important way of looking at life.
And I try to remind myself, taste your food, taste your food, because it's easy not to.
Yeah, I think experiencing something and being very conscious and present that you are experiencing it, right, is two very different feelings.
Totally.
So I agree with you. Sometimes when something happens, and then I used to think that, I must take a photo of this, and then I'm like, why? Why do I need to take a photo of this? And you know what's the no bullshit truth, man? How often do people go back and look at your photos? How often do we go back to Facebook and scroll through our own photo book, let alone somebody else's? We just don't do it because we take so many photos on a daily basis. We don't even look at yesterday's photo until, I saw something. Okay, let me see if I can find a photo for you. Unless you're giving it to someone else, you don't revisit your own photos.
Google Photos, man.
Yeah, but Google Photos is discontinuing, right?
Hey, no.
Yeah, I got notification. Google Photos.
No, the notification was the relationship between Google Photos and Google Drive. So it will no longer back up both ways.
So now it is paid.
Google Photos is just Google Photos. So there's no...
It's not unlimited anymore then.
It is. If you save it in regular resolution. If it's high resolution... Sorry, you save it in high resolution as opposed to full resolution.
Okay.
Full resolution is not unlimited.
Yeah, I use Google Photos, but I saw some notification on discontinuing of.
They don't know.
Yeah, so okay. I hope you are right because I enjoy using it.
Oh, it's so good, dude.
Yeah, although you will never revisit your photos.
I like this day last year and the year before.
Yeah, actually, I like those notifications from Facebook, as in like 10 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago. Yeah, I think those are cool, and I think our phones, every single phone, whether it's an iPhone or an Android or whatever, should throw back gallery photos notification today, 1 year ago. Just you wake up with a nice memory. I think it should be done, and idiots like Facebook should not have a monopoly on this.
Yeah.
But that feature, very cool.
So good.
Because you're not thinking about it. You're not looking for it, right? It just throws it to you. Hey, this was you 10 years ago. Oh, I forgot to delete the photo of my ex. Oh, great. I can delete that photo now. So yeah, I agree. I think there is something to it. It's amazing that we can take photos, we can take videos. It's so amazing that we can capture all these moments, right? But the reverse side of it also, it is very sad that you do that instead of actually enjoying the moment. And I'm not saying, my life is very different in a concert. Did you know that? I realized when I took my wife to, I know it's a very weird segue, when I took my wife to Coldplay in Singapore, or should I say she took me as a present. She took me to Coldplay in Singapore. And I was like kick-ass enjoying the concert. And my wife was really not happy. I was like, what's going on? It's awesome. She's like, I can't see anything. Everybody's hands up, every phone's up. And my wife is not short. She's tall, but she's not as tall as me. And then I realized that my head is like well above the crowd. I'm getting really cold air because there's nothing else there. My view of the stage is totally uninterrupted. And then I literally squatted down to the same eye level as my wife, and I looked at her and I'm like, oh, this sucks. And she hated me so much for it. And I was like, oh, okay. So there's some benefits to being a tall idiot. But yeah. You can see over all the phones that people have up in the air. That's the only advantage to being tall.
That needs to be on a t-shirt.
Yeah, man. So yeah, sorry, weird segue. But yeah, I think the conversation got very mellow, right? In a good way.
Yeah, we went everywhere.
Yeah. So, dude, it's been 2.5 hours.
It's a good amount of time.
Yeah.
It's a good amount of time.
I don't know what the final time will be after I've like censored what.
Probably like 15 minutes. The shortest interview ever.
You know what? I'm gonna try and listen to it again and see whether we can leave most of it in. I don't know whether we'll get us in any kind of trouble. Hopefully not.
Well,
I thought it was fair commentary. I didn't.
It's very neutral.
Yeah. Yes, please believe in your own religion and be good people. Is my only advice that I can give you.
And don't be disappointed in your religion if people are not good. It's okay. It's okay. It's just the people.
Yeah. Hakim, it's been fun. Hey, actually, before we kind of, what are you working on these days? I literally don't know what you're working on these days.
Oh, yeah. The plug.
Right. No, yeah. No, literally. Like I avoid asking people before they come on, like, what are you up to?
Right.
Because it'd be nice to hear what you're doing now.
So I started this idea in my mind that I've been doing my own thing for so many years.
Right.
I want to try and play cheerleader.
Okay.
So I started consulting in the region.
Okay.
Singapore, Indonesia, and a few different industries. But that led me back to Malaysia.
Okay.
To consult social enterprise called Souls Energy.
Okay.
Of Souls 247 fame. They're an
SOLS.
NGO.
Yeah.
SOLS.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that.
And
why have I heard of that? They've done some campaigns and
they've been around for like 20 years.
Ah.
They teach English to underprivileged students. The idea is if you teach English, you upgrade their ability to make money in commercial sort of settings like hotels and whatever have you. So anyway, they started a social enterprise called Souls Energy to install solar on roofs of residential houses.
Where? Around which area?
The whole of West Malaysia.
West Malaysia.
Yeah.
Wow. And then where have they started? No, I'm also assuming it is like they're installing solar to like low cost housing or just.
So the social impact component is that they teach orang asli, youth, to become solar installers and then find high paying solar installation jobs for these youth and then make the environment a little greener. So
if somebody is interested to get solar installed, they go to Souls 24/7?
Soulsenergy.com.
Okay. And they will figure out, they will code you and then they will send the installers to come. Oh, sweet, man.
So, it's...
I like these kind of ideas. I like sustainable... I like the idea of empowering people instead of just giving them stuff, because it's a bottomless pit. Because if you run out of money, suddenly they are just there with open hands. But empowering them, teaching them English, giving them high-paying jobs relatively, installing solar, and I dare say high-tech jobs as well. I think that's pretty cool, man.
It is pretty cool. They've installed several hundred homes in Malaysia, and I think I've been thinking a lot about it. Why is it important? I mean,
which part of it? What do you mean? The empowering people part or the solar part? Or?
The solar part.
Okay.
Empowering people, I think it's just a good thing that everybody has meaningful employment that gets them paid and gets them to do something that contributes to the world.
Yeah.
But the solar part, I've been thinking a lot about. What I do is strategy, so it forces me to think about it. And I think solar is for your kids. So a lot of solar is presented as save money. And because you do save money, but I think there are very few products that you buy for your kids other than sort of insurance for your kids and putting and saving for their education, right? But dude, 2020, it's just shown us that our environment is it's not well, man. And I think there are very few things that people can do. They feel there are very few things that they can do to try and make it less bad for their kids. So they try and I try and don't use that plastic bottle and try and reduce driving. But here's the crazy thing. Your biggest footprint is the energy you consume. So I think it's important that
I hear you, man. Yeah, I think
people do something about it.
I've been thinking about it. I guess the right word is I'm saving money up for it. I guess it's some of the solutions I've seen is not cheap, but it's worthwhile. I think right now the return on investment they're talking about is we're not talking about kids. You're just talking about the dollars and cents. I think it's 15 years before you recoup and start actually saving money on your monthly bill because your upfront cost is so high. But I do believe that number is coming down quite fast every year.
We could probably get you less than 7.
Interesting. I'll definitely check it out. soulsenergy.com.
That's the one.
Okay. Now I won't forget. Okay, cool, man. So tell you what, I definitely see some parts of it where we probably want to pick this up some other time. But thanks for coming here. Thanks for doing this little experimental thing. And I look forward to having you back again if we are not in jail. Okay.
If we're not in jail, let's talk.
Okay. Oh, if I get in jail, I'll give you a call as well.
Bail me out.